Welcome to the Salesian Historian Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Randolph, and our guests today are Jacob Chacko and Ryan Billmann. Today we'll be talking about the Taliban in Afghanistan. Here our guests are going to introduce themselves.
Yeah, what's up? It's Ryan Billmann. I've been studying the conflicts in the Middle East for a while now, and I'm an expert in all things United States involvement in the Middle East.
My name is Jacob Chacko, and I've been studying the Taliban for 5 years.
Now we'll talk about our first topic, the Taliban's formation. Ryan, do you want to start talking about that?
Yeah, so the Soviet Union originally invaded Afghanistan in 1979. This caused the U.S. to start supplying the Mujahideen militant group who was anti-communist. The CIA created a covert operation Cyclone to finance and arm the militant group, and they considered this an anti-communist war. An important point is that many Muslims joined the fight against Russia, including a young Osama bin Laden. Going up to 1983, President Reagan met with the Mujahideen leaders at the White House. The U.S. considered them an ally in the fight against communism and the Soviet Union. This is reflected in the pop culture references at the time, including Rambo 3 with Sylvester Stallone fought alongside Afghan villagers against the Soviets.
Next generation of Afghans, yet nobody sees anything or reads anything in the papers. What you see here are the Mujahideen soldiers, holy warriors. To us, this war is a holy war. And there is no true death for the Mujahideen because we have taken our last rights and we consider ourselves dead already. To us, death for our land and God is an honor. So, my friend, what we must do is to stop this killing.
After 10 years of occupation, the Kremlin finally agreed to withdraw troops from Afghanistan. This left a power vacuum where warlords started to grab for power. Soviet-backed presidents left and was put under house arrest in a UN compound. This caused Mujahideen forces to take over Kabul, and the militant group created a new Islamic State. Around 1994, the Taliban emerged in southern Kandahar. They took control of the province very quickly and imposed their harsh interpretation of its Islamic law, and their president, Mullah Ahmad Ammar, and his students were on a mission to establish Islamic law and destroy the communism and take over what communism had left. The Taliban had also claimed that they wanted their country to be rid of territorial warlords and corruption, and many young men started to join the Taliban. However, cooperation between the Taliban and the Mujahideen leaders failed, and fighting broke out. Kabul eventually fell to the Taliban, and 50,000 people were killed. The Taliban then implemented their version of Islamic law and prevented many schoolgirls and women from going into places without coverings, and they could not learn or go to school, and the women had no right to vote.
This brings us to our next segment, which is 2001, which Jacob Chacko will explain.
After a time of relative peace, in which the Taliban-backed militant groups Al-Qaeda and their leader bin Laden took responsibility for the attacks of 9/11, where 3,000 citizens were killed that day. The reasons for 9/11 were the U.S.'s relationship with Saudi Arabia and the U.S. military and economic support of Israel. Another reason was the backing of world lords in the Middle East.
So after 9/11, the U.S. retaliated by invading Afghanistan, looking for a leader of Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden. The reason for the Taliban being involved with this is they were protecting Osama bin Laden and other leaders. U.S. President George Bush declared a mission accomplished as the Pentagon formally announced that major combat operations in Afghanistan was finished. Now Ryan will talk about our next segment, what's happening now.
Yeah, so the U.S. had a strong military presence there throughout the early and mid-2000s, but more recently in 2021, President Joe Biden marked September 11th, 2021 as the deadline for all American troops to be out of Afghanistan. U.S. forces left Bagram Air Base in the middle of the night without notifying any local commanders, and Bagram Air Base is actually the biggest air base in Afghanistan and was like the epicenter of the U.S. involvement in the Middle East and the Taliban after 9/11. After the U.S.'s quick departure earlier last year, the Taliban quickly seized control of the country and started to put in their rules of very, very harsh Islamic law. In only 9 months, the Taliban had completely seized the economy, and it was started to go in rapid decline.
All right, now to our next segment about social justice. So I think we can all agree that the way the Taliban has been treating their citizens is completely wrong. It's morally wrong. Everything about it's wrong. How do you feel about it, Chacko?
It's wrong.
That's it? What else do you think about it? Like,
I think it's messed up. We had to do something about it.
how about you, Ryan?
Yeah, it's definitely an issue, and it definitely puts the world in a very touchy situation with a lot of troops leaving Afghanistan, and then all of a sudden a lot of Taliban control and rhetoric starts to take place. After tolling all the troops out, it would be very unlikely that countries will want to go right back in with military force. So that's why you could probably see a lot of inaction being taken place. Also, because of their rule, a lot of sanctions have been put on the Taliban, and that's why their economy hasn't been able to grow. They cannot trade.
I think the biggest problems to me is the way that civilians are being treated. Like, the women have no right to anything, really. They're basically looked at as, like, property.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have the right to school, to really life at all. And then another big problem to me is how unsafe the citizens are. They don't have the right medicine, economy to, like, support themselves, food, anything. And then the tyranny government,
Yeah.
just not keeping them safe at all. All right, so our last segment is our solution. I think overall we all agree that what's going on is wrong and we need to fix it. I think a big thing we could do is if all the bigger world powers could help support a new government growing in Afghanistan. How do you feel, Chacko?
Yeah, I think the U.S. should come in and help the government and start just helping and give money to them and help their
Yeah, the big thing would be lifting sanctions, economic sanctions on the country. I don't think military involvement would be very popular in any other country, but lifting trade sanctions would be a huge thing for their economy, but then also keeping an eye on the Taliban and making sure they don't just use that freedom to not keep their citizens safe.
All right, and that's going to wrap up the podcast. Thank you for listening.